morning. Welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the 25th day of March, 2024. Wow, is this year going fast. And speaking of that, I'm going to bring on my esteemed guests right away, and we're going to get right at this. Jeff Buongiorno and Jason Ickes. How you guys doing this morning?
Phenomenal. Thank you for having us here, Donna.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. I love talking with you guys. You actually have content and lots of it. That makes a lot of fun for me. So what's happening? Did you guys have a good weekend?
Oh yeah,
phenomenal weekend. Found some shenanigans going on down here in Florida. I don't know if you all heard the news. There's a congresswoman named Laurel Lee, and she's a Florida Republican in the House, and I've been calling her out for quite some time. She was appointed by DeSantis. She was the Florida Secretary of State, and now she worked her way up through the through the farm leagues of the Rhino League, and she's now in Congress. She was Secretary of State, and she refused to do anything about the 2020 election. I've been calling her out, and just yesterday, Trump on True Social posted that he wants to recruit someone to run against her. So that's that's pretty she's DeSantis appointed, so here we go again, which is a good thing though. She voted for the $1.2 trillion dollar minibus, so she's got to go. But yeah, I mean, I can open up with we just had an election here in Florida. We had the Florida presidential preference primary, and we also had our local municipal elections. So just a couple of things. Maybe I can do a screen share here. So I'm going to
anybody that's appointed by some of these World Economic Forum guys like Ron DeSanctimonious. I love it when President Trump calls him that. I think it's hilarious. You got a problem.
Didn't he say he retired that name?
Did he retire it?
Yeah, he retired. I haven't heard. Yeah,
after he endorsed endorsed him. Yeah.
Oh. I don't know what to say. I mean, facts are facts. If there's a bad appointment, somebody does the wrong thing. They're all voting for these money laundering bills that are out there going to everybody but the American people. So I got a problem with any of them that do that right from the get-go. Right then and there, they're traitors. I don't care what label they have. I don't care if they come out here as the Glee Club from Central High School. I don't really care what they are. If they vote for this kind of crap, they're traitors. All right, so here we go. Let me see if I can get you up here. There you go.
Yep. That bill is just atrocious. So, all right. So, the first thing I want to say is Donna, thank you. What you're doing is having an impact, and this was the.
Are you having a hard time?
Yeah, sound is going funny.
Sounds like your internet's a little slow there, Jeff.
Hang on here, Jeff. Come back to us, Jeff. Come back to us.
He's phasing out. It must be that solar flare from yesterday.
January 15th. This is a tweet. They clipped the radicals clipped 2 minutes of your interview with Todd, and it had something like 40,000 views. And this guy, Devin Nunes' mom's son,
total troll account.
Yeah, hey Jeff. Jeff, your internet is really, I think they're messing with you or something, because all of a sudden it got real slow and choppy. And out.
And I think we lost him. Yeah.
I think we lost him.
Well, he must not be on Starlink then, huh?
Something like that. You know what? The other thing is too, is if we're talking about things that matter, I'll watch people, they'll drop right out.
You have that happen on your show. I have that happen on my phone calls.
Yeah, so what he has to say right now is important, because it's I'm going to take him out right now. He's going to I'll see if he comes back on again. I'll see if this works.
Yeah, there we go. Try one more time. One more again.
No, let's see if we can. Well, this sucks, but let's see if you can. I'm going to see if you can jump off and jump back on again. Sometimes that does help.
Well, I think I know where he's going with this conversation, and that is that these lefties are running scared. Some of this stuff that they were pointing out was that they've been highlighting people are out there turning in packets based on the information we're putting out there. They're building packets and turning it into their sheriffs. They're actually going in and saying, "Hey, look, there's bad stuff going on. We want you to open an investigation." And the link.
I think we need to start at the beginning here to lay the groundwork, though, for what he's saying, because it was coming through so choppy that I'd like to see him start over again and see what's happening. But I do think that people are getting in the game. Okay, let's see if this works, Jeff.
Yes.
Okay, can you start over again with what you were saying, because
yes.
Let's try that again.
Yeah, I tried using a different browser, thinking maybe the resources were less, but it not so much. Not working so great with Edge. Works better with Chrome. So here we go. Let me do a share for you. Get this guy up.
There.
So where I left off was
start from the beginning, because it was so choppy we couldn't hear you.
All right, how am I sounding now?
That's good.
You're good. You're great.
Oh, terrific. So starting from the beginning, well, I talked about an endorsement, or not an endorsement, basically Donald Trump calling out Laurel Lee, who was a Secretary of State in Florida during the 2020 election, and she basically ignored, I personally delivered 175 petitions requesting an audit of the 2020 election, and her and DeSantis, not a word. I call her the godmother of the election fraud cartel in Florida, because she let a lot of this happen. So Trump posted on True Social, look, we're trying to recruit candidates, because basically saying, everything I've been saying. She also voted for the disaster bill, the omnibus bill, just on Friday.
The traitor bill.
The traitor bill. But Donna, I want to thank you and let you know that your broadcasts are having an impact. This is a clip that you did on Twitter. If you can, my screen's up, correct? Yes. So This was January 15th, Todd Buffington, and this guy, this Devin Nunes' mom. Let's see, he's got 14,000 followers, but he tweeted this, and look at the folks that he called out. He called out, first of all, he's calling out Todd for being a member of the John Birch Society, and so they went in deep into his video, into your interview, and basically he retweeted this you can see who the enemy is here. There's 28 people that he called out. Liz Cheney, where is it? So in the comments here, he just went off on a total rant. So, this Devin Nunes' son's mom, or whatever it is, if you follow him, you see that the original tweet that he posted, one of them got 40,000 views. So we're having an impact. Where is it? The number
That's
of views.
That's really cool. It's like that is really cool. Sometimes you do this every day and you wonder if there's like two bullfrogs and a cricket watching it, and I know that I get actually a lot of people that reach out to me for it, but that's a really good encouragement. Thank you.
Here, Donna Brandon, Donna Brandon, that they hope to complete their election validity score for Michigan in a week or two. So they're following you, they're following us, and you're over the target. One of these had 42,000. Oh, look who they're CCing. It's
cool.
Katie Hobbs and Gretchen Whitmer, two of the biggest traitors. So
yeah, in their faces, I'd like to shove it right in their faces, because they're cheaters, they're traitors, and they botched an entire election, and they sat there twiddling their thumbs.
Yeah.
There, I said it,
So-
Jason, didn't I? Traitors.
So now, yeah. So now in Florida, we just had our presidential primary election, and we had our local and municipal elections as well. Now, this just came to mind. Last we met, you asked for details on the Delaware case. So I had this in the slide deck. I forgot I was going off into Florida, but I forgot about Delaware and the judge's ruling. And remember last week you wanted some more information on Delaware. So here it is. Here's the case number, and what the judge ruled. I just took, it's 27 pages of ruling, and basically, he's saying that the Virginia Constitution says election day shall be the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November, and he considers early voting just another way to vote. So that he's saying what he ruled was casting ballots early, but constitutes voting, constitutes the election running. So he ruled it unconstitutional. He also
he's a traitor too.
Say that again.
So now he's a traitor too.
No, he's good. He ruled in our favor that it's unconstitutional.
He ruled in favor. I guess I missed that.
Yeah.
It's just another way to vote.
Those last 2 pages in the ruling there determine that you can only vote in one day. I believe it also says that absentee voting that violates that as well. Yes,
absentee voting. Yeah, it's a little obscure, but I know one thing, that you can't register permanently for absentee, and I believe, so that's a good question. But we have case law. I've been saying I want a case number. Let's get something rolling. And okay, so now here's the information for Delaware. Something lawfare needs to be done with this, because that's a huge win for us. And it's been since February 23rd, this ruling, and I've only heard crickets. We have the RNC now. We have Christina Bobb, who likes to sell books. She's in charge of election integrity for the RNC. We have solid legal theories that will stop them dead in their tracks. Come November. So now let's talk about the 319 presidential primary. Praise God, Trump won. I still don't like the results. I don't believe the results in some very red districts, very red counties. Nikki Haley got like 9%, and DeSantis got 1%. So I still think they're propping her up in hopes of becoming VP. But, I've been a hawk on this. I've been a hawk on the data. I brought this up in a prior call that there's a very obscure law, a law that doesn't work for the people. It's pretty, to me, it's an unlawful statute. It doesn't work for the people. Now, sometimes you have to get into the weeds so people understand. So I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible. Basically, what they're saying is in the Florida statutes, it's 98.09813 right here. We have the exact verbiage, but they have to report to the people the results, and they have this obscure law, and this is the one that I called out, that allowed them to basically not be transparent, or to obscure 40% of the vote in the 2020 general election for the sheriff of Palm Beach County. And there's that story, there's more where that came from on that story. I want to stay focused. So what this says is when one or more ballot types, also known as counting groups, in a race or an issue have fewer than 30 votes, the ballot type must be reported as 0. So this allows them to report an aggregate number of votes. There's no counting group. A counting group would be there was 900 voters who voted by mail. There were 310 that voted early, and there was 180 that voted same day. And this is where you catch them with the massive amounts of mail-in ballots that you'll see. You'll see 926 in a precinct of only 1,100, and the rest are not vote by mail ballots. So they take advantage of this law to obfuscate the vote. I did a video on this for my campaign 3 years ago. I've been screaming from the rooftops about this for 3 years. So now
I saw that. That was really amazing, and how much it really did hijack the totals.
Yeah. They used it in the 2020 election. They used it 9,721 times to obfuscate nearly 40,000. 40% of the total votes, average, a little bit less, but here we go. This is the last race that we had, okay? And I don't know if you can see the bottom of the screen where it says summary results and favorite races.
Yep.
2 tabs, right?
Yep.
So now there's only 2 tabs as we can see. Let's take a look at 2022. Here, the precinct results, you have more tabs. You can click on precinct results. You can go to this drop down and you can get the detail. So by law, they have to do that. They have to report to the people the precinct details, right? We just showed you that in the statute. It says it right here. Now, let's take a look. Let's go back to 2024. There's no detail. And when Wendy Satori Link, this fine young specimen of a communist, she's another DeSantis appointee who was appointed as a Republican and switched to Democrat. But so, these are the problems we have in Florida. But when confronted with this question, Wendy, where is all the detail? She said, well, who wants to analyze an election? That's okay, people. If you have a problem, take it up with Tallahassee. There's nothing I can do. So here we are. This is the trial run. And, this has to get out there. This has to get to the sheriffs. This has to get to the media. This has to get out on social media. They're pulling their bull crap already. It's the proverbial slow boil of the frog, right? You boil that frog slowly. Oh, guys, we're going to just do it in this little meaningless race. It's only the presidential primary and some of these town, council elections. There's nothing big here. And next thing you know, 24, what do you think they're going to do? So this is my, there's a call to action here. Now we have 2 calls to action. And one last thing, I coined a new phrase. We need to take the MAGA hobbyists off the couch and turn them into MAGA lobbyists, because there's too many of them that are just sitting around. It's great. War Room's great, but we need to get off the couch. We need to get out there. We need to fight. We need to bring this to their attention. I still believe that there's time. If they change the laws because of this quote unquote pandemic so quickly, well, why can't we change them back? Why are we focusing on our efforts on Scott Pressler and ballot harvesting and ground games? The pandemic's over. It was a fraud. Change the laws back in as many states as we can. Get up there. Get in their faces.
We're working on Tuesdays. We're working on putting a case together to go to the townships and the local townships and such, and to demand that they remove the machines at the local level. And so Tuesdays, that's what we've been working on, and we'll have that finished here shortly. And then I think we're going to do mock. David Clements, the professor, brought this up, was the mock trial runs in going to a township board, so that you know exactly how to act and how to take over a board, and then have the case there in front of people in order to remove. You either remove the machines or you're removed immediately.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, these people want to get off the couch, but they don't know what to do, and they go into these board meetings, and there was a great interview with Byron Donalds and his wife on AMAC. AMAC is like what is it for 55 and over? It's a conservative organization, and she had a great line. She said, "Your local, your town council, and your county meetings that's where democracy goes to die." They sit up there and they think that, they look down at you. They don't want to hear it. And, we have a meeting in Palm Beach tomorrow that I'm prepping for. And this is part of the prep. It's just so deep rooted. Wendy Satori Link, her campaign manager is on the payroll of the Palm Beach County supervisor of elections as a consultant. They're called Cornerstone Solutions, and they also were the campaign consultant of the sheriff, the Democratic sheriff, who was basically a tyrant during COVID and during the school board meetings, had people arrested, and it's just terrible. And both this Cornerstone Solutions, they're on as a consultant, and they're on the county payroll as a vendor, as a consultant for the supervisor of elections, and they're political operatives. And the sheriff paid them within like 25 days of the 2020 election. He cut them checks for $100,000, $200,000 in total. One of them was 4 days before the election. And, just coincidentally, they leveraged that 1 to 29 obfuscation reporting law the most in his race. They needed a sheriff that would be a tyrant. They knew COVID was coming. They knew the school board meetings were going to get, the people would redress their grievances, and folks were arrested for, there's a 66-year-old woman was arrested for not wearing a mask in a bagel store. A guy named, just many arrests were executed by the sheriff because people were just redressing their grievances in the school board. So, this whole thing of 2020 and COVID, it all ties together, and we need to have some meaningful action taken before the 24 election.
Outrageous that the interaction with a sheriff, and I'm every time we look at this kind of stuff, we see more and more how much the money is behind all of this. These people are trading funds back and forth. They're literally mining our tax dollars and finding more and more ways to cheat by moving the money back and forth. It's incredible. You know what? Our sorry behinds would be in jail for doing this sort of stuff in the private sector, and having, no degrees of separation between companies, and you can see it within the government. There's no separation from these people, so there's no accountability.
No, it's totally a cabal, totally a uniparty. And, it's worse than that. It's properties that appear, and there's a mortgage, and all of a sudden the mortgage is paid, and the mortgage company is gone. It's folded. It's just a shell company. I mean, Liz Harris. I'd like to get Liz Harris on, from Arizona.
Arizona. She's been on before. We can get her on again. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I like Liz.
Yeah. So talk about the New Mexico properties. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. I don't know. Actually, Jason, you brought a lot of this to my attention with the book and the author and the custody battle and how that whole thing went down.
Yeah, I was in a little early on that one. Before it went public, I was actually asked to review it and do some private investigation on it and validation and look into it. And we were looking to get SARS reports when we were still trying to get our hands on all the SARS reports through congressional, leveraging our congressmen to request those from the FinCEN and other locations where they should have been reported, because as you start to shuffle large quantities of money over 10 grand around, that starts to trigger a bunch of alerts, red flags, and that should have been sent up in activity reports to the justice system and through the FinCEN. But we didn't get our hands on any of those at the time that hearing went on in Arizona, and blew that whole thing wide open, which then walled us off from it pretty much entirely. But the history from where that was based out of was actually a Coke dealer in Minneapolis, he bought up like a city block of rundown houses and had a mortgage lender and a real estate agent, a couple on his books. He was basically paying for them they were taking their kickbacks, and they just walk up the property values in the neighborhood through buying and selling these houses to fictitious people or the people that actually lived in them at that time, and they were in on it, give them a kickback. But I mean, that's how they laundered. That's how the coke dealer laundered his money, was through through property valuations. So
it's
can
like
see that all over the
pump and
United
dump.
States.
It's like pump and dump of stocks, basically, and you could buy a house like from what I heard for like 10 grand in Detroit.
Yeah, exactly. It's very similar. I mean, they were going, and you can buy up foreclosed properties and, you know, flip them and turn, you know, 5-10K in a matter of, you know, 48 hours. It's just the mortgage-based system that we currently have today has a lot of checks and balances that cannot keep up with the speed from which property moves these days. And it's gotten so far out of the spectrum of what the government's able to manage that look at the tax valuation for a property versus the actual sale value of that property. It's multiples over what's the assessed value of it. It's ridiculous.
Well, and when you don't have individual ownership of properties, what I see a lot of times, and this goes back to a scenario where I was offered $4 million to be deposited in my bank account in 48 hours. It was a real estate type transaction. And the problem is that when you don't have individuals owning land, guaranteed the people involved in these hedge funds and these large money guys, it's all foreign money that's backing this, because they have an unlimited pool. When you've got a hedge fund, because I saw this up close and personal, of $240 million, when that's one that they bankrupted. It wasn't even, you know, they kind of devalued it and such. When you start seeing the way that they jockey the money around in order to buy one property, they leverage the asset value, they buy another one, and then another one, and another one, and you end up having these billion-dollar real estate holdings. We have a real problem. And then at the local level, this is something I've been trying to tell people. You need to look into your township boards, your municipal boards, the county boards, and see how many of these people are developers and how many of them are real estate agents. If they are, there's a huge, and I mean a huge, conflict of interest there. And that's part of why all of our farmland is getting eaten up. These people, in my opinion, are enemies of the United States of America, because they have weaponized their positions in order to take advantage of it.
That's you know, I'd like to just read something real quick. Under U.S. law, domestic terrorism is generally defined as involving criminal acts dangerous to human life occurring in the U.S. or its territories that appear intended to coerce a civilian population or influence or affect the conduct of government. That's about as broad a spectrum for the definition of domestic terrorism as there possibly is. I mean, it's basically, if you thought that you were going to be able to coerce somebody through your words, you could be deemed a terrorist right there. And what I'm reading this from right now is the U.S. Government Accountability Office. And I was going through and reading the reports on some of the expenses on domestic terrorism and all that. And I'm like, oh my goodness, all of the money that went into these bottomless pits to surveil Americans, they're out here spending it to monitor their political adversaries. That's exactly what they've done by increasing the scope of what domestic terrorism is. Look, terrorism is a pretty clear definition. By default, terrorism is simply enforcing the will or change of a political regime or government through acts of violence. It's violent coercion for a political to change a political outcome or to drive a political narrative or force.
Like day 6.
Exactly. So
Right.
we still don't know who the bomber was, right? There's the footage. We were supposed to be getting that extra 5,000 hours. Have you guys heard anything about any of the additional footage being released? I haven't.
No, I heard additional 1.2 trillion. I didn't hear 5,000 hours.
Yeah. So Speaker Johnson was supposed to release the rest of that footage, and I've only seen one additional clip since then, highlighting a particular Capitol Police officer that said he was, violently struck, and it turns out he was. The video footage doesn't show him in any capacity where he was needing medical attention. So his testimony, it just goes to lend itself that there's a lot of very dishonest people that wanted to frame that crowd as well as Trump as domestic extremists and undermining our government through an insurrection. That's what they wanted to label him as an insurrectionist. And I just was reading in the Detroit Free Press, there are people who still believe that Donald Trump led an insurrection on January 6th. How anybody, if they actually have access to all of the information, could possibly believe that is beyond me. Because when you actually look at the scope of everything that occurred that day and all the involvement from the government and the level of cover-up, the January 6th committee being actually obstructing proper investigations and covering up information. The testimony of Miller, that just came out. Did you hear about this? Chris Miller's testimony?
No.
He was coerced. He came out and said he was coerced to leave out the fact that Donald Trump had requested National Guard. He was threatened by Liz Cheney.
Yeah, Liz Cheney was on the chain that was copied on that Todd Buffington clip.
Yeah. Yep.
We talk about getting back to taxes, and today is the day for Trump in New York, and talking about valuations. So if that's not true, if his valuations were inflated, then wouldn't the state of New York owe him about $500 million for overpaying on the taxes? Right.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, exactly. He should be suing them for unlawful collection of taxes. Yeah.
So now we talk about the valuations of homes, and we talk about these pump and dump schemes, and we talk about how Berkshire Hathaway Properties is coming in and they're buying up the single family homes, and we talk about congressmen who are basically not working for the people. And I have a screen up, Don, if you want to share that. I mentioned this a few times. We never actually went there. This is on my website, and this is a whole basic timeline of what I call the grooming of a corrupt congressman. And this is about Brian Mast. So if you open these documents, you're going to have all the underlying information that we dug up. This first one is an 85-page complaint to the SEC about his dealings with SPACs, special acquisition companies. And this document, the second document, we'll go through this real quick, and we'll give you a guideline of this roadmap is what it is of how he came to power. And one of the things was helping a heroes organization, which I don't think they're really working for the people. I think it's a leftist organization. They gave him a $310,000 grant, and the terms of the grant were it's a loan for interest-free loan for 10 years. After 10 years, the mortgage is forgiven and the loan is forgiven, and you don't owe it. But if you sell it within 10 years, we have the right of first refusal, which he broke. He sold it to a SPAC that he was involved in. And I'll get to those documents. But what he did was he took the equity, he sucked it out in a second mortgage on his home. And what did he do? So he got the grant in 2016, and then around 2020, 2019, right before COVID, he took the grant money and he bought CVS and Walgreens stocks before the pandemic. So the next thing he did was, here's the line of credit that he took, January 14th, and then, he had the cash on hand, and then shortly thereafter, he bought the stocks. It's on his, House Financials report. So he went and he took the money from helping the heroes, he sucked the equity out, he built the pool, and then he built the little guest house, and the rest of the money was went towards the stocks. Here you see it, various stocks and securities. Beginning the very next day, right after he closed, he started buying up stocks.
All I can say is don't screw with Jeff, because he's going to come and get you. He's going to throw it out in the light and hold you accountable. Now
this MDH Corporation, Acquisition Corp, is part of the I think they're the offering company of the SPAC, or no, McClarity Diversified. They were the holders. It's the same structure that Trump has going right now with DWAC and Truth. So McClarity put out this MDH Acquisition Corp, and they raised $76 million of investor capital, and they were going to buy up companies and take them public, and that's what a SPAC does. They basically underwrite public offerings. And what happened was they held the money, and all of a sudden these corporations started to pop up at the address of the house that I mentioned, and they were all related to military. AI and procurement, and everything that would be right down Brian Mast's alley, with his military career. So the theory that we came up with was, all right, they're starting these LLCs, they're going to take them public, suck this $276 million out of the investors, and the companies will fail, or they'll play the market, whatever. But thankfully, we didn't get a conviction on Mast. But they did stop. They forced McClarity to return all of the capital that they took into the investors, and they forced them off from trading. They were taken off the stock exchange. So if you want to, so there's more. But wait, there's more. So if you want to go back to the screen here, back to my share, Mast goes and forms on sunbiz.org. That's where you register corporations in Florida. He starts this company called 4M Holdings. And what he did was he spells his name Brain Mast instead of Brian Mast. And he did it twice. So when you go and do a search, it doesn't come up. And
that's some FBI nonsense going on there.
Yeah, it's like James Comey when he has properties in his name, but it's instead of putting COMEY, they put CORN. It looks like an M when you sign it, but if you search, it's Corny, not Comey. So this is the
the same thing with Michon Maddock up here in Michigan. It's Michon, Mershon, Michon, whatever it is. They just change the spelling a little bit, and you can't FOIA anything because they've obfuscated it by the spelling.
These are all lessons everyone can learn from.
Yeah. So
at some point, civil disobedience means using their own tactics against them.
There you go.
So he starts this LLC. He spells his name wrong. He buys his property for $615,000 cash, which, by the way, on the McClarity Diversified and MDH Holdings at this same time frame, there's $600,000 that they can't account for, and they made a note. They have to report on FINRA, so they made a note to FINRA that they're going to investigate it, but they never gave us an answer. They were taken off the stock exchange, and basically they went silent, and we never know. We have no idea where the $600,000 went from MDH, and we don't know the source of the funds from Congressman Mast, who makes $174,000 a year. But here's the clincher: just a few months later, he bought it for $615,000. It's on the market for $3 million, and he didn't report it on his house financials reporting until I called him out. It was 2 years after the fact. So he buys a property under this LLC, and then he refinances it, and he says that he is the sole owner. But we know that his campaign manager, his name is Rocco Ladoni, is on the LLC with this guy Brain Mast, And we know that Rocco Ladoni has a Series 7 securities trader license. So he mortgages this property, he pulls out cash, and he lies and says he's the sole proprietor of the LLC when he's not. So here's the special acquisition company information. Here's more information on how he spells his name wrong, and they use these semantics. Here's a purchase of his home for $1.3 million. He's got a huge mortgage, and he's making $174,000 a year.
Meanwhile, get this, Jeff. Domestic violent extremists commonly self-finance their attacks through generally legal means. For example, using income or savings to pay for travel in small dollar amounts, according to experts. Government reports and research also identified the risk of domestic violent extremist groups using other illicit mechanisms to finance their activities, such as selling merchandise with messages supporting their cause. Many of these mechanisms implicate First Amendment protections, free speech, right? So thereby limiting the ability to monitor the activity to the same extent as unprotected activity. So while you have people doing all of these things that you're saying, over here, we've got our government saying, oh, the real terrorists, the real threats to our national security are basically everyday people who are conducting normal business.
Unbelievable. So this is on my website. It goes on and on. This is proof. This guy, Rocco Ladoni, if you look at Brian Mess' FEC filing, you'll see that he's paid as a consultant, and he's also, he's a registered stockbroker trader. And so these guys failed. They never took anything public, but they took $276 million. Here's where we could see that it's not on his original, Brian Mess' original House Financials report. And then all of a sudden it appears. What's this? Okay, he failed to disclose. So he knowingly falsified his bank affidavit, his mortgage app, because he said that to Valley National Bank, he represented that he was the sole proprietor. And then here we get onto him about his MSNBC link to, he's all about banning, he's a gun grabber basically. And, he also posted, I don't know if everybody knows about this. This is a beauty. And, he claims that he was on pain medication and was after he got his legs, his unfortunate accident. But if you do the timeline, it's before it happened.
He said, don't turn this. That is such a bunch of nonsense right there. Oh, I didn't know what I was doing. Okay, so who cares? You did it.
Yeah, and
so it's like being a drunk driver and killing somebody and saying, well, I was drunk at the time. I didn't know what I was doing. So, well, I'm sorry, you committed a crime. And it seems to me from what we can see here that we got a chronic problem with lying here. It sure appears that way to me. The guy's a chronic liar, brain.
Yeah, he said, don't turn this rape into a murder. That was his Facebook post. So this guy's on Fox News twice. Yeah, that's what he posted on Facebook. So this guy's on Fox News as this military hero.
So all he does is talk. If he rapes somebody, it's not really a crime in his eyes.
He's on Fox News. They praise him. He did serve, but he was in the National Guard for like 11 years and 9 months, and he was in really in Afghanistan for like 3-4 months. And he said, "Oh, I served in the Army for 12 years." Not, I
don't care if he did something wrong. Who cares?
But he really did serve in the Army. He was in the National Guard for like 11 of them.
Well, okay, so here's something. This is a problem.
I'm not nothing wrong with the National Guard, but he's conflating the issues, making it like he was in the fields of Afghanistan fighting when he was, doing his weekend thing in Fort Pierce.
Well, this is the problem that I have with any of these protected groups. I don't care what they are. They've all the groups have been infiltrated to some level. So we have to look at it as good versus evil, rather than, I love our military men and women, no disrespect for them. But if there's somebody amongst your ranks, call them out and eviscerate them yourself. Clean your own house out. It doesn't mean the whole military is bad, but you've got people in all organizations, in the Christian church, in the Jewish religion, in the Muslim, being Muslim, all of it. Our government doesn't mean everyone's bad. The FBI, that's proven to be completely out of control with their fedsurrection. But we need to clean out our own organizations and not say, well, I'm a Christian, so I can go ahead and do this, and or I'm military and this is my record, so don't look over here at what I actually did. Don't speak out against us, because that becomes a bad thing. And I'm like, no, everybody needs to be held accountable.
Can you share my screen a second?
Yeah, of course.
So, for almost 20 years, this was my business, and I still maintain the site. I do get leads for all areas of what I'm involved in now, but this was a training company, and we trained veterans to become, certified. I called it, suit camp. We took them from boot camp to suit camp. We did very well. We got them jobs. We were in competition for state grants, for basically like Pell Grants, but also the state grants that were available under the Workforce Investment Act and the Workforce Development Program, WDP and WIA. But we had an 80% job placement rate in the 13-week program that was around $5,000. And these other programs are like, 6 months, a year, 26,000, crazy numbers. So we started to put a dent. I had 12 locations. We started to put a dent and take revenue away from the state colleges. And all of a sudden, we were attacked on an administrative level, where they made these rules that were, rules for me, but not for the state colleges. They would hold back like 50% of the measly, $4,000 that we could get out of the state. They would hold it back until the student was employed for 3 to 6 months. And during that 3 to 6 months, we had to submit the same timesheets, which is a big burden, for their job as if they were in our school. So that's one of the reasons, I kind of changed gears, stayed in technology, stayed on the path I was. But I dealt with a lot of veterans is another point I wanted to make. And I was surprised the amount of, I want to say, like, hostility towards the country, but not every, I'm going to say it was maybe a 60-40 split on the veterans who held a grudge against the nation. They were definitely, center left to radical left. And I did it for 18 years. I dealt with them on a personal level, helping them with their interview skills. I taught some of these classes. You get to know a person, and it's, maybe I can't blame them. There's 35,000 that are homeless, right? I'd be a little pissed off too. But, this whole thing of, having this unwavering respect for an institution like the military, like the FBI, that's been breached. We have to go into this with, basically very low trust. And there's still a lot of people, like you said, Jason, J6, they believe it. We went from a high trust society where we believed in news, we believed in these, the military and, the FBI and law enforcement, but it's been breached, and people have to question everything.
Question everything. You're absolutely right, because everything has been infiltrated by these Marxists, these Bolsheviks, whatever you want to call them. I mean, and that's really kind of what we're dealing with here. It's like they've infested our nation. And I really think that, there's so many more good people out there, but we're definitely going through a time of transition, a time of waking everybody up. People have to realize that we are supposed to be in charge of this nation, not the government. And the one thing COVID did, there's a couple of really good things out of COVID. It actually gave people time to get a little bit more educated. And we started having difficult discussions because there was enough pain there to make people change their course a little bit and start questioning everything. No matter what institution, what entity, what person it is, you should be able to question all of them. need to question them. We need to look at the background. We need to see how many people are being run by actual people in the State Department, because I have a suspicion that that we're going to find a lot of information that even some of the candidates are being run by, I don't know, maybe the FBI, the State Department, something like that. Because you look at the connections. Look at Hillary Clinton and all the nonsense that happened through the State Department with Hillary Clinton. And I'm pretty extra sure that that's going to roll right downhill into local offices. In fact, I think we should start looking into some of these. And everyone out there, you can do your research. You can start looking into local candidates that are that you've got some questions on. Because I don't know about you, but I've got a question about a lot of these people. I started doing research when I was running, and I found one person who had 6 aliases out there, was claiming to own property all over the state. She committed a 14-year felony, which that little situation is going to end up biting her in the behind in one of these days. You know, as we go through trying to find out where all the cockroaches are hiding in the corners, and all of the connections with her, with the trucking companies, with the insurance companies, with the bakery, with the foster care, with the child care. It's all connected. This one individual has so many connections there. It is absolutely frightening. And this is not just one, it's across the board. And so even though we know people, and I know people that know this individual, and it's like, oh, she's a good person. I'm like going, just because you talk to somebody and you know that person doesn't mean they're a good person. They can be outright liars. And looks like your buddy down there, not your buddy, but Brain down there, looks like he's got a little bit of a problem with chronic misinformation to the public.
But they're all doing it. It's not just him, and it's, you know. Can you share my screen 1 second? Getting back to this whole, there's a guy named Joshua Phillips. He's a writer for the Epoch Times, and he coined this phrase. It's called leadership capture, is what he called it. And, you know, I hear all the time from the state reps, oh, you know, we want to get rid of this early voting, and we want to hand count by precinct level. Oh, but, you know, the NAACP and leadership, they're all against it. But, you know, we're the ones who elected you. But what I want to show on the screen, this is the Florida State Constitution, and this is the oath that they swear to when they're sworn in for any state office. I don't know if this strikes you guys as odd, and I do solemnly swear, so here it is. Here's the oath, or affirm that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution. Sounds good so far, right?
So far.
So let's keep going. And government of the United States and of the state of Florida.
Well, that kind of got in the weeds real quick.
That was never the case, right? Is it me, or I'm trying to find the trail on when they changed it. So,
well, I mean, if you're going to put something in there, put, you know, the interest of we the people. Why would you go to the government? And now you've got confirmation that it's just one big crime syndicate. We need to vote the whole bunch of them out. The whole damn thing needs to go. I'm so disgusted with it.
Well, you know, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people has to actually be of by the people. If people are not active in participation, this is what happens. Your government becomes captured. And to what you said on the leadership capture side, this is part of the CCP's plan, which is elite capture. That's going after political figures, business leaders, you name it, that they want them in their back pocket, and they will offer them deals. They will help fund their campaigns surreptitiously through perhaps
kids. Properties. There's a lot of them that have been threatened. Their families threatened. I heard some drum beats that the judge down in Georgia had some threat on him. I don't know if that to be true, but it would make a lot of sense. And I believe there's a lot of people out there that have been threatened, and or they throw a kid in their path or whatever. I mean, look at all the people that have gone over to China and overseas, and we know that the child sex trafficking industry is rampant in some of these places where people actually go on vacation just for that sole purpose. And I think that when we start looking at the connections there, it's been proven out with Epstein's Island, but that's not the only place. It's all over the place. And this is something that can't be dismissed. It's
funny that one of the Facebook posts that I mentioned that the Sun Sentinel called out on Brian Mast, like Rocco Ladoni, which he knew before he was, they're friends before he got into politics, man. He was in like I don't know, the Philippines or something, and he's like, and Matt said, hey, why don't you F 10, 15-year-olds for me? Like, and the guy went on vacation just for that, and it's in writing. It was on Facebook. So
this is not a one-off. This is happening all over the place, and I think that's there was an ex-congressman that offered me a stick of blackmail material on every member of Congress, and basically, it's flat out told me, if you use this, it'll get you in. If you don't, it'll get killed. And I'm like, there's the driveway, out of here. And so we know that they've got so much on people. And you know what? I hate to say it, with the AI the way it is right now, they can manufacture a lot of this too. And so seeing what's out there, if somebody is blackmailing a political figure or anyone, you need to shove it right in their face and start outing these people instead of running away from it. You've got to run towards the fire and get 50 connections from them and saying, this is what happened. I am being threatened. And this is how it's happening, and get to your sheriffs and start, don't run from it.
Matt Rosendale, right? Mike Gallagher. I mean, what's going on? And so can we just do one more screen share?
Absolutely.
And this goes back to the Constitution of Florida and leadership capture, and how did this evolve? I mean, here's Section 8. I don't know the article. I think it might be 1. But the right of the people to keep and bear arms in defense of themselves and of the lawful authority of the state shall not be infringed. Okay? Sounds good so far. But how can you follow up shall not be infringed with the word except? So except that the manner of bearing arms may be regulated by law.
Man, that's all kinds of nonsense going on right there.
And now after this whole, minibus bill passed, now there's like these federalized gun-free, like gun grabbing thing. Like, what's going on with that? I'm on information overload. Rush Limbaugh was right. It's Operation Chaos. That's why I'm trying to stay focused on a case number and on the elections, because I tweeted this morning that the most violent crime known to man is a stolen election. And I cited the 100,000 fentanyl deaths a year. I cited Lake and Riley. I cited everything that we have, these weak prosecutors, and I just did a whole list of what the devastation and the devastating consequences that a stolen election has. So it's Operation Chaos.
Soldiers in Afghanistan lost their life, right?
That was another one. Yeah, I put ask the family victims of Abbeygate. I put that in.
Yep.
I think it's safe to say that every single one of us is being threatened by our government right now, and then the usurpers therein. It's not the government structure. It's not America. It's a group of usurpers that actually launched an insurrection against this nation, and they're sitting in the seats. And every single one of them has to be removed, called out as the traitors they are. Anyone that had a little finger of involvement in the 2020 and the 2022 election and did nothing is a traitor to this nation.
How is Alejandro Mayorkas still in office? This boggles my mind. With all of the things that have occurred in the last several years, how is he still in office?
How is Johnson in office?
How do you
vote? And hasn't called anyone to attention here.
How do you impeach Mayorkas, the director of the DHS, 1 month, and the next month you vote to fund the very agency that he runs? Like, that is just total nonsense. And then you got these reps, Guy Reichleiter, whatever his name was, from Pennsylvania. It just really got under my skin. He voted for the minibus, and the next morning he's complaining about inflation. So I tweeted a reply to Guy. I'm like, Guy, did you wake up with voter remorse? Like, don't you remember yesterday? These bills caused this inflation, the very inflation that you're gaslighting us about. You voted for.
Well, and look at the state of Michigan here with Hoekstra in office in the MIGOP. He signed the Patriot Act twice, not once but twice, and we're protecting these people. Are you kidding me? It's like he's no better than Christina Caramo, and I wasn't one of the idiots that voted him in. I wouldn't have voted either one of them in at this point in time. It's like we got to clean house and in the areas that we're in, and it's just a shame.
Michigan Michigan, what's going on with JC? Any updates you can give us on that DC trial and and those marshals and all that craziness?
Well, in regards to Stephanie, I have to refrain from talking too much about ongoing investigations, but the real concern I have in surrounding a lot of that information that's been released is that it's pretty clear to me the EAC I don't think they do anything. I think they're a rubber stamp organization. And
EAC, say the name so everybody knows.
The Election Assistance Commission. And they are the certification authority for the election vendors' systems. And they failed to certify the voting systems test laboratories, VSTLs, which are SLI and ProBNV. And that's who gives them the recommendation to certify equipment. So they failed to certify their certificate authorities. And then when they made recommendations, they went ahead and rubber stamped them. But then the vendors made modifications and never went back for certification. So the system is completely broken. It's not following any of the NIST or FISMA technology security standards that are out there that are in place for government agencies. They're violating the contract laws that are required for ensuring that the systems that the government funds and supports to support its infrastructure meet the standard and scrutiny required. If you look at some of the stuff that's going on here, the use of Serbians to run the source code for our election system, for specifically Dominion,
outrageous.
Well, on top of the fact that they're in a jurisdiction that is rampant with criminal activity, where the government covers up murders and all sorts of stuff, that crime is just the standard operating procedure in the country.
Like our country too, right?
Well, and this is why that's exactly how you end up with this. When you let another country that is that way run your election systems, how do you think you're going to end up?
You're going to end up with a whole bunch of people Arkansided, like, and the things that went on with the Clinton Foundation.
And there was some visit.
And on and on and on.
The Clintons were very involved out there. Bidens were involved in that region as well, in that country specifically. There is clearly a lot of stuff that needs to be thoroughly investigated, needs to come out, but it's pretty obvious. It doesn't require a lot of thinking or work. There's no excuse for the critical infrastructure. It's designated critical infrastructure. We have agencies set up to support critical infrastructure, and they ask for access, they ask for the ability to monitor and supervise, and they're denied. And it makes sense because it's people off in a jurisdiction where they have no authority over them. This is exactly part of the problem with public-private partnerships. You shouldn't be able to, legally and lawfully, you're not allowed to delegate certain authorities. As a elected official, you are elected to work in a capacity, and you have certain responsibilities. Certain responsibilities are not delegate. You cannot delegate them. They're non-delegatable. And we have essentially allowed foreigners to run our elections. And this isn't just Dominion. I mean, ESNS is just as guilty.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this is. I'd like to continue this next week because I've got my next guest getting ready to come on here, and we got a new lawsuit in Michigan that is going to be really interesting. And Scott Ogney has been running the ball in the locus standi investigation, and these people are just amazing, and they're doing work just like you guys are in their area, and the information they've come up with is extraordinary.
Can I just get 30-second screen share and show you one thing that's really important?
Yeah, thanks for being patient here, Scott.
Okay, so here we know that we have this SSA.gov with this whole registration of voters with 4-digit social security numbers as ID. And here we have the week ending 3/2, March 2nd. And here we have Texas with almost 250,000 in 1 week. And we have 31,000 that don't match the social security numbers. The last 4 don't match the identity. We have almost 5,000 dead people, known deceased. But I just talked about obfuscation of reporting. So I want to fast forward to the next week, March 9th, and look what they did. So here's March 9th, and magically, Texas disappeared.
What?
Yeah, it's not on the report.
Okay,
so what are they hiding? Now, the thing is, these numbers are right. So I figured it out, but by doing the math, that the aggregate is right, but they're not showing this. It's the same way they report in Florida. They're not showing Texas. So Texas this week was like the same, 215,000, and 30,000 didn't match, and that's it. So I'll let you get your. Thanks for having us on. Thank you very much. God bless you. You are the best, Jason. Thanks for. Good to hear from you. Good to see you.
Thanks, guys. I really love our Monday morning 9 o'clock little show here, and thank you so much for being on. And let everybody know where they can find you out there. Jason, go first.
JasonIckes.com, and I also work for the America Project, AmericaProject.com as well.
And,
yeah, I'm hiding.
For Jason,
I'm running for Michigan's 3rd congressional district, U.S. Congress.
Jeff.
So, yeah, my website's votebongi.com, BONGI, votebongi.com. And I'm running for my life. That's what I'm running for.
You're running for what? Your life?
My life, yeah.
All right.
All right, guys.
All right. Thanks. Have a great day, and I'll be right back with Scott Ogney.
Thank you.
Welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg.
Yeah, Donna, we're going to have to do phone.
Oh, okay. You want to do phone? Okay, well, there we go. Hang on just a minute, and I will add the phone to this. Hang on 1 second. All right, we're going to take Scotty off here a minute, and here we go. Hang on. We got to get better connections out there. Everybody needs to get on Skylink or something out there. Hang on a minute. Let me get Scott on here. Hey, Scott, how you doing?
That sounds a little better. I'm really struggling with the StreamYard streaming. I'm sorry, it's just something I've struggled with. But
that's okay.
Let me pull up your links. That way, at least I can have a visual for what I'm seeing.
Okay.
Do you want to? Actually, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that because I don't think I can talk at the same time. I don't think it's going to let me do. Is it going to let me do? No, that. Hold on 1 second.
Well, you know what? I've got it up here. Hang on just 1 second, and I think I can. I think we can move. Let me move this off the side here.
I got you pulled up on Rumble.
Okay. Hang on 1 second, and I'll put it up on the screen with us. How's that? This is what we do. It's real news for real people by real people at the kitchen table. So, well, it was until I moved into my office and cloned my background here. Hold on a minute. And let me see what I got. I've got comments. We've got summit. We've got PDF. All right. So I've got 305 and I've got 312. Which one do you want up first?
Why don't you put the 305 up first? That is the first lawsuit that was filed. It was filed, it'll be 3 weeks tomorrow that this particular lawsuit was filed.
Okay, hang on a minute. 305. Ta-da! Where there's a will, there's a way. Okay, there you go. So Scott, just so everybody knows, Scott, introduce yourself a little bit to everyone so they know who you are. I've talked to you about you quite a few times because you're working with EIF, Election Integrity Force, kind of off to the side. You guys kind of collaborate together on some things. And you're kind of the motion behind the Locust Standy investigation, which I find is some of the finest people investigating our elections that have ever come out of the woodwork, really, and decided as individuals to defend this nation by launching this investigation and being unrelenting at it. It's amazing.
Well, the people we have involved in the Locust Standy investigation, you're 100% right. We have a group of individuals. They're grassroots people, and they have had to become investigators throughout this whole process. And most people, including myself, and I had a software background. I had background in a lot of different things in my life, but I did have some software background, and I've been involved with this, investigating this data for almost 3 years. And my investigative partner throughout this is a woman from Election Integrity Force named Joanne. And she's been at this longer than I have, and we are investigative partners. And the amount of evidence of crimes that we have uncovered and everything else it's overwhelming. And when we started the Locust Standy investigations, the goal was to eventually bring charges against the perpetrators, who most of them reside in the Lansing community, but the goal was to bring charges against them within the counties. And there is a video that actually, possibly the next time I come on, maybe we can watch the video together, because it's a very compelling video. It shows the crimes relative to the actual criminal statutes. And
where is that video, Scott?
Say again?
Where is the video? Where could I find that video?
I tell you what, hang on a second. I'm going to send you the link to that right now. Let me forward it over to you. It is a YouTube video, and
because I can bring it up if you'd like to do it now. Would you like to do that now, or do you want to talk about it?
I don't think we should go through it now, because it is an hour and 15 minutes long.
Okay.
And I sent it to you, but if you would like to just briefly pull it up, just so people can see what the front page, the YouTube page that it comes up. You should have it. But this video we produced through the nonprofit Citizens for Electoral Justice. That is the nonprofit that I started, and it's basically for the grassroots people. It was started as kind of a wing to be able to file FOIAs and to file lawsuits. And that's basically how it started. Did the link come up okay?
Here. Yep, it just came through.
But that link, that shows basically tying the criminal statutes to the evidence, and it basically pertains to my evidence specific to my election records. But what we do know is, for the most part, the same problems and circumstances affect everybody. I was watching the gentleman, Jeff, your previous guest, along with Jason, and it's interesting some of the things that Jeff had brought up with regards to data changing and data in other states. And we've uncovered some more information very recently. We actually discussed it on our locust standing meeting last night.
Yeah, I was on that call last night.
Yeah, with regards to voter IDs. And I don't want to go into details on what we've uncovered that we discussed last night, but it does tie into something much broader than just a standard voter roll. And yes, I do consider it nefarious, and there are far too many public officials in this state and probably this country that want to make excuses for the nefariousness of government.
I agree with that 100%. They don't call it out. They do not want to write this. And you can see it in their actions, because they hold nobody accountable. And when somebody comes forward with evidence of what they've done wrong, they'll just slam the door in your face. I mean, basically, our township clerk hung up on me when I was FOIAing my information, which I gave to you. And, I think every single one of them, from top to bottom, has got to be called out and removed. The ones that have followed the policies instead of following the law. Can I play just a little bit of this, Scott? Will you be okay with that?
Go ahead.
All right, let's do just a little bit of this so people can see it.
Yeah, you need your image. Your image is the lawsuit that's showing.
Oh, is it still showing? Refresh your screen, because I changed that out.
The locust standing investigations, narrated by Scott Aughney, Citizens for Electoral Justice. What are the locust standing investigations? The locust standing investigations are grassroots-led criminal investigations, geographically located in various counties throughout the upper and lower peninsulas of Michigan. Investigations center on public election records.
Okay, so I think we should go through this at a later time, as you said. I'm going to go ahead and stop that screen and bring the lawsuit back up, so we can specifically talk about that today, because I think this is really significant.
Yeah. The locust standing video, I think that's going to have to take another show and another opportunity to go through and discuss what is in that video, because that's the video we've also sent to law enforcement and to some prosecutors.
Well, they need to be educated too, because clearly we're supposed to be instructing them on what we want done. The problem is they're not listening. And so that's the problem. And, I know you've been out there beating the drum on this, and so have I, trying to educate people and them on this sort of thing. And they're just not listening. So we can assume that they're part of the problem.
I do consider them part of the problem, because in the locust standing video that is specified there's actually a law, MCL 752.11. And it is quite specific that all public officials, whether elected or appointed, are supposed to uphold and enforce the laws of this state. And that includes criminal statutes. And it is a crime if they do not. But who is going to criminally charge them? That's the problem of the system we have in place. We have a prosecutor in Isabella County who blew this stuff off, who refused to have the whistleblowers come in and explain the evidence because he didn't want to do the case. I'm talking about David Barbary in Mount Pleasant, and then John Miller in Lapeer County. The two of them they're nothing. They are terrible, terrible. I think they're terrible human beings, and I think they're terrible public officials. And,
well, if they broke the law and they're not upholding the law or doing the investigation on it,
get away with it
they're
because
criminals.
Nobody is going to enforce the law against them. This is how these public officials, specifically prosecutors and law enforcement, can get away with this, because they know in this circumstance they can break the law and nobody will hold them accountable because there's no other law enforcement that's going to enforce it against them. So there is another lawsuit that is coming based out of Jackson County that will be addressing that, and that will be a huge lawsuit because of the extensive witness list that's going to be attached to it. And the primary people involved with that are going to be the Jackson County prosecutor and three law enforcement officials from Jackson County. But we are seeking a statewide court order out of that as well. But I will discuss that as soon as that is filed. We'll set up another time for me to lay that out, because that is going to be a very compelling lawsuit. Let's talk about if you can pull the first one up again. That is
I've got 5 up. 05?
Yes, 05. Yeah. This one here, and I think you probably have the first page up, and the first page is just basically the summons that she was served. And if you can move the pages of that PDF.
Yeah, I can.
If you can move it to the page, it is the page that actually, it says State of Michigan in the Court of Claims for the state of Michigan, and it's Army acting in pro se capacity versus Jocelyn Benson. So that'd be the first. That'd be like the third page.
It's up.
Okay, very good. This is a standard complaint, and what this lawsuit is, what is classified is an injunction, and we are seeking injunctive relief against Jocelyn Benson. This lawsuit pertains to basically one specific thing. Jocelyn Benson, immediately after the presidential primary, through the Michigan Bureau of Elections, has implemented a directive in terms of FOIAs that they are no longer going to allow us to see who has voted absentee, who has voted early day or early voting, and who has voted same day during these elections.
Well, you know what I saw information changed in there. I've got screenshots of it, of the candidates that were running on the Republican ticket, and how that information was changed before the 2022 election. They changed it. There was a point in time, and I think it was on April of the same year, there were records changed for almost all the candidates that were running. And you could see the comparison between it. And so there's a lot of nonsense that's going on there.
There's an extensive amount, but what this case is and the other case, what these are about public transparency. It is about transparency from the government. And it is important to understand what this first lawsuit is about. They don't want us knowing who voted absentee, who has voted early day, and who has voted same day. They don't want us to know this information. And do you know the excuse that they're making is because if you have a township where you only have one voter that is voted in that township, and you show the results of that vote in that township, then you could potentially compromise that person's constitutional right to a secret ballot.
That's what Jeff's been talking about down there. Where they hit a whole bunch of information down there by doing the same thing in Florida. He found that too.
Well, the problem is this: her argument in Michigan is nonsense.
Well,
it's nonsense. They're not interested in protecting anybody's constitutional right to a secret ballot, because they're the ones that put this in motion to do the early voting. They're the ones that created the problem. They created the problem by pushing for early voting. And now they're telling everybody else, in order to potentially preserve everybody's right to a secret ballot, we're now going to prevent you from knowing who has voted absentee, who has voted election day, and who has voted early voting. In other words, we are no longer going to be able to track who has voted absentee, who has voted early day or early voter. They let us see this when they started the early voting, which was August of last year, I think was the first one. They had no problem reporting that before. Why all of a sudden did they change it after this presidential primary? I think part of the reason is because Citizens for Electoral Justice and the locust standing people submitted FOIAs to every clerk in the state of Michigan for their registered voters showing on their computers prior to the election as much as possible or immediately after the election. And I think the Bureau of Elections got paranoid.
Had to shut it down.
They do not want us being able to have an audit trail on who has voted absentee, who has voted early, and who has voted same day. They don't want an audit trail.
Of course they don't, because it's going to implicate all of them.
Yes, and I tell you what, it really, really is very, very disturbing that they would use a weak argument trying to defend an individual's right to secret ballot when they are the ones that created the parameters that are jeopardizing the secret ballot in the first place, because they're the ones. Now they will say, "Oh, well, it was passed by the voters of the state of Michigan." They're the ones that implemented the whole idea of doing the early voting. It was the Bureau of Elections and the Secretary of State. And this is basically to prevent the public from being able to see what is going on. And they don't want us knowing who has voted absentee. That is the bottom line. They don't want us knowing who has voted early.
So they can stack the vote, and they can just like show up with boxes and such and stack it any way they want.
Correct. And that is the basic premise behind this lawsuit. Donna, why don't you scroll down a couple pages, 2 pages, because you're on the first page here. Are you on page 3, the third one?
Page 1 of 3.
Yes,
and
that's
so
it.
yeah.
That's it. I'm just going to read through these because these are double thing, but I want everybody to know exactly what this pertains to. Now comes this day, March 4th, 2024, in the Court of Claims for the state of Michigan, plaintiff Scott Ogney, henceforth referred to as Ogney, a complaint against defendant Jocelyn Benson, Secretary of State for the state of Michigan, henceforth referred to as SOS Benson. I wrote this myself. I have had to learn how to do these things because statewide, we have lawyers that do not want to get involved with this stuff. We have a culture where the Michigan bar can basically, in a nutshell, I believe, controls the courts. Because in order to defend somebody in court, you can file pro se, you can do that. But you can't even defend somebody else in another area if you have no standing, because you cannot operate as a lawyer. And the state of Washington recently have changed, they have changed something where you no longer have to have a license to practice law in the state of Washington. That's a liberal state.
Well, there is no such thing as a law license. And the bar is a private membership club. And in the Constitution, it says you have the right to counsel, and that does not include or prohibit anybody else from, if you go to the Constitution, from having counsel of their choosing. So they're off base on this, like big time.
And you know what? The criminal statute, and I can't remember the number offhand, the criminal statute that says you can't practice law without a license, that's a crock. There is no license. LARA, which is Licensing and Regulatory Agency of Michigan, does not do anything with a law license. That basically what they're saying, and Jason talked about it in your 9 o'clock segment, that you have a merger of public and private entities.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the situation with the Michigan Bar Association and its involvement with the state, and specifically the integration of the private segment, the Michigan Bar Association, with the public segment, the courts. And I tell you what, we ran into problems with this up in some cases I was involved with in Northeast Lower Peninsula. And a lot of this stuff needs to be challenged on it, because there is no justice right now. I don't believe at all. And I don't know whether or not we will win these cases. We drew a judge, James Robert Redford is his name, and he is the judge that has been assigned to both of the lawsuits. But it is a case that we haven't been able to get a lawyer to get involved with us at all. And
no, because you're going to protect each other.
So I had to take the role of filing these things in a pro se capacity. Let me read the next. Let me get through this because this is a short one. That Secretary of State through the Michigan Bureau of Elections, and Donna, I'm on page 2 of 3. Are you on that?
I'm there. Yeah, I'm there.
Okay. That Secretary of State SOS Benson through the Michigan Bureau of Elections has implemented an unlawful action in the form of a change in reporting configuration for public data received through FOIA submissions. This reporting change pertains to exclusion of voter type data found in voter history records and specific to the following codes: A equals absentee, ED equals election day, and EV equals early voter. In other words, what they have done, they are no longer allowing us to see this information. They don't want us to know who's voted absentee, election day, or early voter. They were allowing us before, but all of a sudden they decided to change it when we filed all those FOIAs because they make the excuse that it would compromise the secret ballot of one individual if one individual voted in a township. So that's what they have done, is compromise, and they have violated the laws, and that will be in the brief that I will be submitting next week. All right, the final paragraph on this one. In response to the action, OGNI seeks the following in the form of injunctive relief. Number 1, restoration of voter type data to voter history records subject to publicly generated FOIA requests. And number 2, full compliance by SOS Benson as to FOIA requests of qualified voter file data containing these data types. A equals absentee, ED equals election day, and EV equals early voter. This is a very simple lawsuit. It's an injunction. We're asking the courts to basically force her to lawfully allow us to see this data. And these will be in the brief, which as soon as it's filed, I will let you have a copy. If you could post it on your website, that would be great.
I actually posted this morning I posted it on my Telegram channel at Brandenburg number 4 MI.
Yeah, and you know what? This is a real simple thing to understand. They don't want this data being auditable. They don't want us to be able to look at it, and the law says we're legally entitled to see it. That's what the law says.
Well, Scott, how many counties or precincts are there in this state who could not be, which could not be audited? I think EIF proved this because of tampering with the boxes.
Well, I tell you what, in Proposal 3, the Proposal 3 recount, that was in December of 2022. I don't have the numbers. Joanne would have the specific numbers, but there was a substantial amount. I believe it was over 67%, if I remember that right. It might have been 3/4.
Yep, failure.
Joanne has a specific on that from Election Integrity Force. But it was quite extensive that many of them were not auditable. And this is the problem. They want a system that is not auditable.
No accountability.
That is the basic premise. And I tell you what, this lawsuit that I just outlined to you, it's real simple. But if their argument is that they want to protect potentially one individual, and I'm all about individual rights, but they want to protect one individual, okay, and their secret ballot. Okay, fine. Then you have to get rid of this early voting. This early voting is unconstitutional in state law and federal law. Why? Well, in federal law, you have to vote election day. That's the day you have to vote election day in November. That's what what for the federal election. That's what federal law states. But state law, there are other laws in place where the early voting is compromising the ability of the public to see data. And these will be in the brief, the supporting brief that I file on this case. And basically, you can make the argument that the early voting is unconstitutional in the Michigan State Constitution because it is violating other existing laws. And that is the problem. And you cannot put something in place if it does not fall in line with all the rest of the laws. You cannot do that. And they are getting away with this. And that is the purpose of this particular lawsuit, which they clearly, the motive behind this is they don't want people to be able to audit the election data in terms of absentee, early voting, or same-day voting. So,
well, I tell you, this is like if for anybody that's a programmer out there, our legal mess we have out there from the top to bottom is like spaghetti code. It's convoluted. There's so many laws on the books that are unconstitutional that no matter what you do, you're always breaking some sort of a law that's out there because they wrote laws that are in conflict in order to use them to harass people. It's a way for them to get away with targeting and harassment of anyone that speaks up against them or who has the guts to go against the establishment. And you can see this very clearly with President Trump and how they've gone after him. But there's other individuals who have been gone after in horrific ways by our own government, which has basically been infiltrated by a bunch of Marxist scumbags, right? So in our elections, and I think that this is real important for everyone to understand, in our elections, everything falls down from that process. When we fail on elections, we only get placed puppets who are installed to make the laws, to protect the criminals, and to use Americans through many means, including money laundering, unconstitutional tax theft, and the like. There's so many crimes that are being committed right now by these criminals that are sitting in the seats that the whole thing needs to be. We need to start over. Okay, we need to vote them all out. But in order to do that, we've got to have really good people that will step forward and say, you know what, I'm going to stand up as an American, not a Democrat criminal, not a Republican criminal, but as an American who loves this country and wants to leave a legacy for our posterity. Right now, we got nothing because there's nobody out there that's defending our country from within. They're all in bed with each other.
Yeah, they're all in bed with each other. And I tell you what, unless we get rid of this system, it doesn't matter, because this system, as corrupt as it is being protected by prosecutors and cops that don't want to do anything about it. And you want to know what, Don? I will say this. The prosecutors, I think they just want to get reelected. David Barbary made that clear in statements he made to the two women that were leading the locust standi in Isabella County.
Most of the sheriffs are like that, though, too. How many sheriffs have stood up and done their jobs? They just want to.
We have a problem. We have laws in place that are not being enforced. 752.11 is a criminal statute, and you know what? We can't even get them charged, because who are you going to have charge them? The law enforcement is nothing more. I'll be honest. I believe it is nothing more than a what do they call it? The fraternity. It is nothing more than a fraternity, fraternal order of police, and that is how it is operating. But I can tell you, the prosecutors, they're no different. Do you know Jerry Jarzenka, an alleged conservative prosecutor in Jackson County?
Which all these labels are lies. All these labels are lies, Scott. You know it, and I know it.
100%. He's got a picture of the rotten Jackson Bar Association members in his office, the prosecutor's office. It's right there when you walk in the prosecutor's office, it's right there. Jackson Bar Association is filled with corrupt attorneys in this county. And I tell you what, you don't see the Constitution on the wall. You don't see anything else patriotic. You see the Jackson Bar Association. That's who he answers to. And he's a rotten, lying prosecutor, and he's going to get dragged into court here shortly. Let's go to this other one, Donna. Let's try to get through this one because this is the significant one.
Okay.
And this is the one where we are going to try to shut down the election process. This is another injunction, and there's actually multiple things that we're asking for in this particular injunction. You got it up?
I've got the summons up, and
okay,
I've gone through.
Go to the third page, which says page 1 of 4 at the bottom.
Yep, there.
Okay, all right. Now comes this day, March 12th, 2024, in the Court of Claims for the state of Michigan, plaintiff Scott Ogney, switch pages, henceforth referred to as Ogney, in complaint against defendant Jocelyn Benson, Secretary of State for the state of Michigan, henceforth referred to as SOS Benson. And I do have this one numbered throughout. I did not do it with the other one, and I'm still learning and process for complaints for your viewers. The complaint does need to come in a numbered
format.
structure.
So yeah, there's formatting.
This is according to the Michigan court rules. So,
which you almost have to be an attorney to understand the friggin' rules because there's so doggone many of them. You know,
they don't want the public to
right.
understand.
They hide things, and it's specifically designed to hide things from us. Try to find anything on the Michigan state of Michigan website. It's a disaster. It's a shame.
Right. Yep. Yeah. It is a disaster, and they don't want the public to understand the courts. They don't want the public to challenge the courts. And okay, so we go to number 2. That SOS Benson, through the Michigan Bureau of Elections, henceforth referred to as BOE, has committed malfeasance through the implementation of unlawful actions, directives, and reporting practices which currently or in the past have impeded the public's ability to obtain and audit data solicited through the Freedom of Information Act, henceforth referred to as FOIA. This suit will highlight data that the public is legally entitled to receive copies of through FOIA submissions. Okay? This is the main complaint, is she's committed malfeasance. Okay? Number 3, the violations committed by SOS Benson in unlawful actions, practices, and directives are outlined as follows. Numbers 4 through 7. So we go to number 4. And Donna, you're on. You got the first one. You need to pull up the other one, Donna.
What do you mean?
Oh, you got it. Okay, all right. Number 4.
Yeah, I've got it all up.
I'm looking at your old screen. Okay.
Yeah, you got to refresh your screen once in a while. I think that's where it's.
No, that's good. I'm fine.
Okay.
Number 4. Changed the accessibility to the electronic poll book raw data history file, EPB_history.csv, to prevent lawful FOIA access. What did she do here? She got it zipped up. This happened last summer. This was after you and several other of the Locust Standing people were out FOIAing for these CSV files.
Yeah, and right flat out in Byron Township here, I was denied and denied any of the files. They gave me my voter history, which you have, but then denied. And the clerk in Byron Township literally hung up on me.
Right. And that is a problem. Most of these clerks, I got news for you. I'm not unsympathetic. I'm very sympathetic. The problem is these clerks have a responsibility to the law first, not to the Michigan Bureau of Elections.
They broke the law.
The law. Yep. And I tell you what, these clerks are legally supposed to be in possession of several of these things. And there's going to be a new FOIA coming out in a week or two. And this new FOIA is going to be very significant affecting these clerks. But let's go back. They don't want us looking at that CSV file anymore. That's why they had it encrypted and zipped up. And they don't want us, again, they don't want us looking at it. They don't want any transparency. All right. Number 5, removed the 4th column, also known as user code column. And you got to flip the page, go to the next page.
I'm keeping up with you. I'm there.
Yep. Removed the 4th column from individual voter history reports generated at the clerk's portal. What does that mean? That particular report, it contained evidence, and it is in the locust standing video. It contained evidence that they are altering, not for everybody, but for many people. They are altering the election records of where people have voted in the past.
Well, Scott, the thing of it is that we're supposed to vote in private but count in public, and none of this is showing what was actually, under that. We're going to keep you safe. We want to protect somebody. They don't want to protect anybody. And so they're protecting themselves, and they are not following the rules, the law, the standing law. They're not following the Constitution. It's supposed to be vote in private, count in public. So that there is, if you can count in public, then all of this information should be right out there and transparent.
Yes, and I tell you what, they don't want transparency, Donna. They don't want us knowing what they're doing.
Not at all.
All right, let's do number 6. Remove the timestamp from qualified voter file, henceforth referred to as QVF, data from the BOE that is subject to solicitation by the public. I don't think you're aware of this. They removed the timestamp, the 0 timestamp that was on the election records.
I did see that because Stephanie was on last week, Beltink, and we went through that with Stephanie. Stephanie's part of Locust Standy also, and it's shocking that so now we don't even know when anybody votes. So they're trying to strip this out so that there's really no information. I can see where this is going. This is going to strip out all information so that they can just say, well, these are the votes that came in and this is what it is, and end of story. We're done.
Yes. They don't want anybody knowing what they're doing. This is how rotten it has become. All right.
That's 7. a simple, hillbilly explanation of this. Honestly, it's just we just want to tell you what happened, and you just have to believe us. But we don't want you questioning us. We don't want you looking through the records. We don't want to provide you with any information so you can actually know what's happening. We just want you to shut up, go home, and show up to our sham fraudulent elections every year. And just be demoralized till you do nothing, And the reality is, the reality is that they pissed us off, and that's the reality. So there's a bunch of us out there that are going to be like, my attitude and your attitude is they came after our country, they came after our families, they've come after everything, and they pissed us off. So now they got a real fight on their hands, and we're not going to back down. We're not going to stop voting. We're going to overwhelm them with numbers and people that are going to hold them accountable, and there's no way out for them.
Yeah, they believe they're entitled. They believe they're entitled, and this is not excluded to the Democrat Party.
No, this is Republican Party too. They're all in on it.
When I ran for state chair, the number one priority for me was to break down this election process. It's corrupt, and it needs to be shut down, or we're all doomed. But the second thing that I made as a priority was to go after the phony Republicans in Lansing, because these people in Lansing, they're no different than the Democrats. They're really not. And
they're all working together.
It is all part of the same corrupt system. And I'm going to tell you, I have been involved with this for 3 reasons. Number 1, I do this for all the people that have given up their lives for this country. Number 2, I do it for the unborn. And number 3, I would like to give independents a chance to win seats, but they're not going to win seats as long as this corrupt system controlled by the monster two-party system. And you know what? You know where I stay. I was part of the party you're affiliated with now. I've had it with the party system, period.
Well, I can tell you right now that everybody that's part of the U.S. Taxpayers Party in Michigan is actually pretty well committed to see the end of the party system, and that includes even our own party at some point in time. But we have to use the tools that we have in our quiver of arrows here in order to try to right things. And I know everybody's fighting where they can, but we still have ballot access. And because we have ballot access, we've got more than, the two choices of the two criminal parties that are standing together as the uniparty. And that's one of the ways that we can continue on, is to have that ballot access so that we can give people who are not groomed by the Republican Party and the Democrat Party in a very Masonic cult-like way. That's what they're doing, is that they're vetting people before they can go up the ladder to see how manipulated they can be. And so the U.S. Taxpayers Party, which is the Constitution Party, still has ballot access. If anybody wants to run for any seats, call us. Get a hold of me personally. I put my phone number out there plenty of times, and we will vet you. We've had a few people that have come to us that we've been like, yeah, no, they're part of the uniparty. They didn't pass the sniff test, and we're not going to back them if they're involved in it. One of them actually was one of the people that offered me a stick of blackmail material on every member of Congress and said, if you use it, it'll get you in. If you don't, it'll get you killed.
Yep.
We got a problem there, and we're not going to pass people. We will not pass people, but we have ballot access.
Right. The Republican Party does not have the ability. My own rotten party in Jackson County will not back me and will not help with this locust standing stuff, but they're more than happy to back corrupt public officials, a county commissioner that I tell you what, we're still investigating some of the other stuff with him.
You should run on the Constitution Party,
the Republican
Scott.
Party, I think maybe there's some isolated counties that are good, but for the most part, the Republican Party has a huge problem in vetting candidates.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this, Scott.
They're afraid to, and there's terrible leadership in many of these county parties.
They suck. The party sucks. And so at any rate, you should run on the Constitution Party, the U.S. Taxpayers Party, and give it a shot here because we need good people to run, and the good people are getting in under the Constitution Party right now. It gives people an option to break with the indoctrination, the go along to get along nonsense, the you vote for somebody that's not with us, you're gonna be the fault of destroying this whole nation. No, you vote with these parties, you are at fault of destroying this nation because you're fraternizing with an infiltrated enemy at this point in time.
Yeah. Let's go to the next one. Right. Denied number 7. Denied accessibility of QBF data, which is lawfully subject to FOIA, that is downloaded the afternoon or evening prior to election day by the jurisdictional clerks. What does that mean? This is a very, very significant piece of this because the night before election days, after 5 o'clock, after the offices of the Secretary of State have closed and after many of the clerks' offices have closed, these clerks are instructed to go and download their EPB software. Okay, well, what does that mean? It means they download a software application that is basically used to manage the elections on the electronic poll books. But what we do know, it also contains it is supposed to contain a list of eligible voters as of 5 o'clock on that Monday. Okay. What Joanne and I have done, and the purpose of these FOIAs that Citizens for Electoral Justice and Locust Standing people sent out a few weeks ago, is we're trying to get that information. We want to see the voter roll that is being downloaded and uploaded into the electronic poll book. They don't want us looking at that. And I believe, and I am saying this, speculating on it based on evidence, that is being inflated the day before the election. Okay? It is being inflated, and we all know the voter roll is being played with. We all know it.
Mm-hmm.
But we believe it is being inflated again the day before the election, and probably deflated afterwards. And this is part of the whole point why they don't want us being able to do audits. They don't believe in auditing these records. They have no problem auditing the tabulators. Do you notice that?
Mm-hmm.
But they have a problem having the records audited. And let's continue on, because that will be addressed in the final, towards the end of this lawsuit. All right, number 8. In response to the unlawful directives, processes, and actions, OGNI seeks the following in form of injunctive relief. Numbers 9 through 14. Number 9, restoration of the EPB_history.csv file to its previously accessible state to FOIA submission, unzipped and unencrypted. We want to be able to access those CSV files. Number 10, restoration of the 4th column from the voter history report that is compiled and distributed through FOIA submission or verbal request at county, city, or township clerk offices. We want that 4th column restored, because it is proof for probably about 40% of the people, maybe more than that they're altering the jurisdiction history of these voting records. Number 11, restoration of a timestamp recently removed from QVF, and I'm on page 4 of 4, Donna.
I've got it. I'm following you, Scott.
Data solicited by past and future FOIA submissions to the BOE. So, in other words, we want restoration of that that timestamp, okay? Because that was evidence. That was evidence to support what that they're altering the timestamp. All right. Number 13. This is the big one.
You missed 12. Go to 12, please.
Number 12. Excuse me. Number 12. This is the big one. Number 12. Suspension of all statewide election processes and activities at all levels of state and local jurisdictions in Michigan, as prescribed in the forthcoming brief outlining a full forensic audit of all election records and processes. What does that mean?
Where they're done.
We want the entire election process shut down until there can be a full, extensive examination of the records and the record generating systems.
Boom, right there.
That is the big one. And I'm sure their eyes lit up when they read that. They were served with this lawsuit on Friday. But this is the big one, is we want to shut down the election system and have a full forensic audit of the records. I'm not even asking for a full forensic audit of necessarily the tabulators. We're asking for it on the electronic poll books, because that's where most of the voter fraud is going now, is going through that. And the generation of fraudulent records. Number 13, lawful compliance by SOS Benson as to FOIA requests of QVF file data, EPB history.csv files produced after elections from jurisdictions, voter history and voter change history reports from jurisdictional county clerks, QVF extracts for the electronic poll book, which are downloaded the day prior to election days, and any other data subject to solicitation under federal and state FOIA laws. Okay? In other words, we want access to what is being downloaded, excuse me, and put into the electronic poll books. We want to see what is going into them. So that is everything we want in terms of the compliance to our FOIA requests. And then number 14, establishment of a process to validate the eligibility of jurisdictional registered voters found in the QVF as being true and accurate to ensure only those true and accurate voter registrants are eligible to vote. Now, why is this in here? Well,
because they're signing up illegal aliens.
There's a lot of people that are being signed up. There are people that have access to our registration system that probably shouldn't. There's a lot of there are dead people on the voter rolls. There are people that are not eligible in voter rolls. And clearly, the system that they have in place to verify eligibility does not work. And we want an actual process to validate as being true and accurate. They have no system in place that does this. They have none. Because we can prove that there are fraudulent records in place right now. So that is the lawsuit. And that is the big one because we're going to attempt to shut down the election system with that. And we have, again, the judge that has been assigned to the cases is Judge James Robert Redford. And he is with the Michigan Court of Claims. And he's actually an appeals court judge as well. But that is, these are the two lawsuits. We have the Jackson case that is going to be filed soon. And then there's a federal lawsuit that will be coming shortly after that. I had to kind of space these out a little bit because I was originally going to file them one a week. But I needed a little more time because writing briefs is not necessarily a quick thing. It can be a little tedious, but these are what we have going on. I can tell you we have not had a response thus far to the complaints by the Secretary of State. And it'll be interesting to see what their responses are. And it'll be interesting to see which attorney has been assigned to our cases from the Attorney General's office, because the Attorney General typically represents the Michigan Bureau of Elections in court. So,
well, I want to let you know that my case that's been going on for forever just got postponed again. And it's one I'm involved in with a criminal case and against the signature gatherers and such. And once again, it got postponed. So now we're backed up until June now. It just every time there's always a bunch of excuses on why this thing keeps getting postponed. Now, I'd like to think that they're being thorough. That would be a nice thought to have, that they're being thorough and trying to get every little bit of evidence possible so they can't get away, and that we can pull this back into a lawful form. And if that's the case, then I'm all in on it. But it does seem like it's a little bit of in conflict with a speedy trial.
Yes, I agree 100%.
And it violates due process. There's violations of the law that are happening with all of these cases that are going before any part of the DOJ. The court system.
The Bureau of Elections and the DOJ are deliberately drawing these cases out.
They sure are.
Okay. And they're getting away with it, violating your due process. They're getting away with it because there's no law enforcement on top of them.
Yep.
Oh, well, you can vote us out. No, we can't. Not when you control a corrupt election system. And there is so much nefarious. I don't even like using that word, but
let's call it what it is, Scott. It's criminal behavior
between these two cases, the Michael Butts case, and we're going to find out whether or not we're not going to find out about the BOE or the DOJ. We're going to find out about the courts. That's what we're going to learn about is the courts. And I have no gripes with the Court of Claims and the filing process. They've been very responsive. have not talked with the judge. I'm not going to pass necessarily judgment on his character or who he is as a jurist at this time. But it is something we're going to find out in terms of where are the courts today, and are they as corrupt as so many other aspects of our government? And you know what, Donna, I'm not anti-government. I'm not anti at all. I'm tired of being accused of that. There are too many people that like to accuse us because we oppose a corrupt election system as being anti-government.
We're anti-criminal. We're anti-evil. That's what we are.
We're anti-unlawful government.
Right. And it doesn't matter what label it comes under. It doesn't matter. There should be no protected status just because somebody throws a label on or a suffix behind their name or any of that. There should be no protected classes of people, esquires, the titles within the government, whatever they want to call it. It's like the right now, it sure looks to me like this is all collusion with the Michigan bar in the state of Michigan.
Of course it is.
Absolutely.
And I tell you what, I'm going to be challenging. Not only the Michigan bar, and I tell you what, I have spoken with alleged conservative attorneys. And you want to know what? It doesn't matter. Corrupt attorneys are attorneys. I have very little respect.
Well, they're going to protect all their schooling. They're going to protect all that they've invested in becoming an attorney.
They're protecting the attorney system.
Yes.
That's what they're protecting. And I tell you what, Hillsdale College, I'm very critical of Hillsdale College because they're involved with a couple alleged conservative attorneys that won't help us. And I tell you what, Hillsdale College, I think, are a bunch of frauds. That's my personal opinion.
Well, let me throw this out here because this came to my attention that I've always liked the information that Hillsdale put out, and I like the college, but this goes back to we have to question everything, and there should be no protected status. It is something came forward, and I need to really see the exact ties. So I'm not going to say that I have this, ironclad as proof on this, but allegedly they're being funded in large part by the DeVosses. And so when you look at the DeVosses and what they've been involved in with the whole thing with Amway and the people within Amway, with how many facilities there are in Grand Rapids, there's at least, I think there's 4 of them that were producing both the Johnson & Johnson shot as well as the Pfizer shot or packaging them. And so that makes a lot of sense now when you see some of these organizations, but you got to do a little bit of homework to find out who's behind them and what their ties were. I mean, it should have raised everybody's eyes on Betsy DeVos when she resigned the day after J6 and then gave $22 million to Pence, the traitor, to betray not just President Trump, but the whole frickin' nation. Anything that goes against
Donna, hold on, Betsy DeVos.
Okay.
Why do we not hear a word from her about the abortion status in this country, in this state? Why have we not heard a word from Betsy DeVos?
Well, I got a few guesses there. I got a few guesses there on where those fetal parts are going. And they're when you know that Planned Parenthood sells fetal parts, the abortion industry sells babies, and or you're looking at how many babies are born alive that they tell the moms, oh yeah, it's done, they're dead, and they actually deliver full-term babies and put them into the sex or the slave trade, because I believe that to be true, to be happening too. But where are these fetal parts going? They're going into big pharma. They're going into all sorts of it. So there's a connection there that needs to be chased down.
Here's the other thing though with Betsy and Dick DeVos. Why they're a couple, they are the biggest frauds in this state. Here's the deal. They have embraced the LGBT, LMNOPQRS culture. And I'm not going to go into details why. People can look it up online. But they have embraced the immorality. And I tell you what, that's why you're not hearing from them about abortions anymore and the unborn, protecting the unborn.
I'm going to throw out a showstopper.
Bad morality and anti-human morality.
I'm going to throw out a showstopper here, Scott, because I'm going to wager to say, now I know quite a few people who are both gay and lesbian, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And they are the ones that are speaking out the most against the pride flags, the pride days, everything. Everyone I know is like, they're disgusted with it. And I'm going to wager a guess here that all of these people that are protesting, that are showing up for these the freak shows that are out there, because that's what they are, the freak shows, and such, that they're literally being supported and funded just the same way that Black Lives Matters were, as well as Antifa, as well as Hamas, Hezbollah, and all of these disruptive organizations, in order to target and divide this nation into subcultures that can't get along. Now, I don't know about you, but I can get along with anybody. It doesn't make any difference to me. I can get along as long as they're not pulling this kind of subversive crap, which is being funded, like the drag story hours in the schools and such. Who is funding this stuff? You can see that they are well funded. You will never make me believe in a million years that these organizations just popped up out of nowhere with the kind of organization, the signs, the infrastructure they had, without some major, and I mean major, funding behind them. So are all of these disruptors out there, are they actually representative of the gay and lesbian community? I'm going to say no. Was Black Lives Matter? I'm going to say no. They weren't representative of the Black community whatsoever. In fact, they went in specifically and burned down the Black neighborhoods. They targeted them and the businesses and such. So who funded this? I think we're going to come right back to the same source that all of this stuff is funded by.
Well, I got news for you. These globalists.
They're globalists.
They are the ones, they're funding all this stuff.
You bet they are.
You look at Hollywood, you look at the professional sports thing. I don't know if you heard recently what just came out a few days ago. And actually, maybe I shouldn't even go into that area.
Go ahead. I'll go into it because Henry Kissinger was the one that was behind the CCP. These things are not organic, and when you start looking into the history, you can start connecting all of them together. And what is Kissinger? I'll say it. It's you can use two different words for it. You can call him a Zionist and you can call him a Bolshevik. It's the same group of people. They go back. They're Satan worshipers, and they're not representative of the Jewish people. No more than some of these yahoos in the Christian movement are representative of Christians. These are criminals that are using the label, just like Republican, Democrat. They're using labels in order to divide this country, but they're all one and the same. They're all part of this global crime syndicate, running the money, running the court systems, running the political parties and putting people in place, running the corporations, running the schools, running every entity under the sun, including the unconstitutional 3-letter agencies out there, which are not only illegal, but under the law, Norton versus Shelby County, do not exist. They only exist because we allow it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's because we allow it, and because there is no law enforcement against it. This is the biggest problem, Donna, is a lack of law enforcement.
Correct. We don't need more laws. We just need to enforce the ones we have.
I don't trust any federal law enforcement agency. I don't trust any of them. I think most of them, you know what? The only one that might have any credibility with me to a little degree is U.S. Marshal Service. But the problem with U.S. Marshal Service, they're basically nothing more than an entity of guards. They basically escort federal prisoners back and forth to court, and they may go capture some, serve warrants, federal warrants on people, those sort of things. The FBI is the most corrupt federal entity as far as I'm concerned. And they are being used. And you can argue the CIA and probably a couple others in that. But the FBI, we can't even get return calls on this stuff. They won't touch this stuff. You can give them the federal laws, and because they're the FBI, we will tell you what we're going to investigate and what we're not.
Hey, you want to see something really crazy? I'm going to pull something up here to show you, because this is going to blow your mind. I think that this is something to look at, and I'm going to pull this up here a minute so everybody can see this, because I think this is critical. I hope you can see this, but
I'm refreshing.
Okay, hang on a minute. I got to stop one screen and put the other one up. This leads us right back to the Zionists that are in control, the Bolsheviks, and they're under every single little organization out there. But I want you to look at that. I hate to say that, but it looks like a person, but it also looks like a Baphomet to me. And not only that, I think we need to keep going down here. Globalist, global. Now they're in education, global, our people, donor stories, da. Oh, look at here. Isn't this wonderful? Angel excellence. Well, I don't know what kind of angel they serve, but I got a few questions for them. And then not only that, let's check out this address right here. 333 Bostwick Avenue, Northeast, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Now, I think we should also pull something else up here, and let me pull this up because I think this is fairly significant. And since we're on the subject of the FBI, because I believe that this one is that there is also some similarities in here. It might take me a minute. I should have probably done this offline, but you know how it is. We get online and we end up going through all kinds of things. I think this is something to look in. Look into the FBI address in Grand Rapids.
I've talked with them. I've talked with the FBI, and they won't. They were originally, I gave them evidence. I gave them the laws about the selection data, and well, let me check into this and I'll get back with you.
Yeah, sure you will.
And then called the agent. I've called the agent multiple times. He doesn't pick up or return my calls. They're corrupt as daylights. The FBI, they don't care about, they serve the ruling class and that's it. They serve whatever they want. And you know what? I've lost total respect. If this is how law enforcement investigates things, there's no wonder we have so many missing children and so many other unsolved crimes, because many law enforcement officers, I think, are pitiful detectives.
Well, I tell you what, I know a gal who worked for Snyder in Michigan here, and she was raped the first time when she was 10 years old, and her mother just told her, go wash up. She never said anything. She was gang raped at 14, and by the time she was 18, she said the cops in Grand Rapids were passing her around. Now, I am not going to implicate all the police officers because there's some good ones in there, but we gotta have some justice here instead of hiding things. Look at what happened in the city of Grand Rapids. We had Rosalind Bliss, who told the cops in Grand Rapids to stand down during the burn, loot, and murder riots in Grand Rapids, to stand down, because I asked one of them, why didn't you get out there and do something? He said, we were told to stand down. And that came from the chief of police, and through the chief of police from Rosalind Bliss. Yep. That's what I was told.
That's exactly what's going on. Yep.
So the whole system has got so much corruption and infiltration. And when you have people that are protecting their jobs instead of walking away and starting to blow the whistle on all of them, do you know the army of whistleblowers we have out there? If people stop protecting themselves and saying, you know what, we're going to bite the bullet here and take one for the team on a temporary basis, so that we could have so we could get into the best is yet to come scenario. And I think honestly that's where we are right now, is that we're going through a cleansing. Let's call it a cleansing right now, where we are honestly cleaning out ranks and showing people how bad it really is out there. This isn't supposed to be depressing. with it, we shouldn't be depressed over this. We should be thankful to God Almighty for this process, because in our generation, if we're willing to stand for goodness and righteousness before God Almighty, not worshiping the paycheck or what we put into our back, into all of our work in life and whatever, but truly putting our time into those things which are eternal, God himself will come right alongside us when our trust is in God instead of protecting ourselves in an unrighteous situation. We've got to do that. And there can be no excuse, no wavering, no fear, no nothing. And if by chance this entire system comes crashing down around us, which I think it's going to, I really do. I've been seeing more and more coming out on next 2 weeks. Keep your eyes open, because it looks like there's a lot of motion happening. We shouldn't fear this. We should go forward, and we should just say, you know what? Sign me up. I'm ready to watch this whole thing fall to the ground, because we will put it back together again. We're mutts. We're the craziest people on the planet that have a history of absolutely not falling in line, of saying, no, you don't get to take that from us. And we need to honor that and go forward into what our forefathers and foremothers, I'm going to call them foremothers too, that they were willing to stand, the original patriots. Now's our time. Now's not the time to worry about protecting our own selves. If you're worried about, I was on a call the other day, and I was watching a bunch of people that were interested in protecting themselves. And it's like, you better think about your whole community and what are you going to do to serve this nation in your own community. And I'm going to tell you what, we should all be having victory gardens right now and learning how to produce and replace those people in this global crime syndicate who've got our food locked down. What are you going to do if they lock everything down? If the banks crash, how are you going to feed yourself and the people you care about? I actually I've been putting out some guidance for people as a farmer and somebody who actually understands perhaps how to MacGyver things when things go all to hell. I'm not afraid of it. We'll just MacGyver around it, right? So I'm like, let's make a plan so that we can not only be prepared, but look into our communities to help each other. So I don't know if you know this, Scott, but as you're fighting in the legal area, and this is what I love about all of us fighting in together, but doing different jobs. We can't all do the same thing. And you are outstanding in your investigation. I don't think that there's many people that could actually bird dog something like this legally as well as you can. You truly are amazing. So anyhow,
Donna, if I can inject, it is not me. It is just me. It is the Locust Standing people.
But you're inspiring everyone.
Group of people.
But you're inspiring everyone and keeping this thing on the rails in a spectacular way. I'm so proud of you. So at any rate, guidelines for one adult amount of food needed for a year. So I don't know if you know this, but grains, you need 400 pounds of grains. It includes wheat, rice, corn, oatmeal, and pasta. I did post this to my Telegram channel, which is at Brandenburg, number 4 MI. Legumes, 60 pounds of legumes, dry beans, split peas, lentils, cooking oil, 10 quarts, sugar or honey, 60 pounds, salt, 8 pounds, and water, 2 weeks supply of water is 14 gallons. Now think about that. And this is not just for yourself, but for your neighbors. So on top of that, that's if you can't produce anything, but if you can produce something, those numbers go down rapidly. And I'm going to be starting to show people how to do vertical gardening and such. And so that you don't have to have a farm. You don't have to have a huge amount of land, but a half an acre garden, 2 goats and 36 chickens will feed 9 families. So think about this in a broader perspective, everyone out there, because I really think that we're going to be coming into a time that is going to make, the depression look like child's play. Everything is set for it to go in that direction, and with the financial indicators and as well as the energy indicators right now. So we just need to prepare a little bit, get out there and fight like hell, and then prepare for your communities, because the institutions that we have been taught to trust, I think they're coming down. And fight like hell, because this is what patriots do. We don't fear, we don't back down, we don't waver. We stay in this until we cross the finish line and we win the race. Thoughts and comments, Scott?
Yep. And you said a real key word, fearless. We
Absolutely
have to have
fearless.
courage about doing this. And I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of gutless so-called patriots. That label is used very loosely in itself. And there's a lot of Christians that have not stepped to the plate either. And I tell you what, if only we had more people behind a lot of this, I think we could have gotten results a heck of a lot faster from some of these prosecutors in some of these counties. But anyhow, I digress.
Well, they've weaponized it. Look at the Satanists that are doing the invocation in front of the Ottawa County Commissioners. I posted that too. The West Michigan Satan Temple of Satan, or whatever the heck it's called, Satanic Temple, it says that they were invited to do the invocation at the Ottawa County Commissioners meeting. And where are all the Christians out there that are like, not just no, but absolutely no, these people are guilty of blood rituals as well as human sacrifice. That's what they're labeling abortion. Now abortion is the right and a sacrificial right for the Satanists. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, the Christians, there are a lot of gutless Christians, Donna. There are a lot of Christians that simply don't have the guts to stand up for their faith. And you want to know what you're seeing with these cultists, I don't care whether you call them satanic, whether it's the Aleister Crowley people. I don't care what it is. You're going to see the state of Michigan slowly start incorporating them into things, because they will recognize that as a religion, and they will say, we've got to give them equal time.
Well, that's exactly what they're doing. And they're calling abortion as their right to be able to sacrifice, because that's part of the religion.
Exactly. And this is the anti-human. These people are not even humanists.
No.
They're anti-human at the core.
And why does PETA not scream and holler where they're sacrificing of goats and the blood rituals that they do? PETA is worthless. They're right in bed with all of them. They don't give a rat's rear end about any of this stuff. It's just something so they can wave their little flags and say we're better than everybody. And they're totally they cloak what's really going on with the Satanists out there that are practicing Satanists that are actually sacrificing. So it's time to call it what it is, guys. That's exactly what's going on here.
Yeah.
So,
listen,
Scott, I got to
wrap up.
Yeah, let's wrap up here. Let's say a prayer, and then let's say a prayer, and then move on with our day today. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I just really appreciate you and everything you're doing, dear Heavenly Father. Thank you so much for Jeff and Jason and Scott and all the wonderful investigation work that they've been doing, investigative work that they've been doing to tear down the criminal intent of our elections that's going on right now. We ask that you would please bring all of this out in the open so that everyone can see exactly what's happening in our elections, in the people in our government who have broken the law and are using it for their own self-gain and or to protect this global criminal organization. We ask that you bless every single person out there, every person who is truly an American, who stands for this nation and is doing their best to try to make a difference in this nation. I'm just so full of love for them today. And I would ask that you would truly let them know how much they are loved, that you love them, that you stand with them, that you'll never forsake them, you'll never leave them, and that they don't have to be afraid of anything, that you are always with us and you are walking us through this darkness as well as out of the captivity to criminals who have usurped our government. We want to fight the good fight. Please guide us in everything that you would want us to do, because we know, we acknowledge, and we praise you for always providing for us and providing for us in anything that you do call us to do. Thank you so much for this day. You've been a great friend to us. We want to be a friend to you. In Jesus Christ's precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Donna, for the time to discuss the lawsuits. I'll be in touch with you on further developments. All right.
Awesome. Thanks so much, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Have a good day.
You
Bye.
too. Thanks. And I'm going to read a few things from the chat here because it's hard for me to maintain the chat. It's not that I don't want to, but when I've got 4 screens going and I have to get on a phone with somebody. I don't have access with my phone. So Charlotte, lots of posting today. Anyone been on Whitnut's website? You're funny. And on Rescue Michigan podcast last night, I put in chat that I'm voting for you for governor. Oh, thank you. And ADAM said, I hope she gets her forum in on time this time. Laugh my ass off. The party is like that. Lame. All of it is clowns. Yeah, I did have everything in on time. It wasn't that. It was that the parties were behind the signature gathering scam. And I found proof of it, because we had signature gatherers that were being employed by the Democrats, and we had Republicans, there's articles out on this, who were paying the signature gatherers not to turn in the signatures. So this was all one great big cover up, and it's going to keep getting bigger, because there's not just one lawsuit out there. There might be another one that's sitting out there just like a bad dream, ready to pounce on them at any moment in time. So we'll just see how that goes. And they just can't keep changing election laws. It's even legal in their jurisdiction. They're enrolling illegal aliens under the Homeless Act. It's all nonsense. And so I appreciate that. And lots of people on BNN Live today. So thank you so much for going there. And tell you what, we're really getting a lot of viewers with BNN. And thank you for the Twitter shout outs from what is it, Devin Nunes' mother's son or something like that. It's hilarious. I'm going to look it up and repost that on my X account. So I can't get past calling it Twitter at any rate. But just so out there, there's so many people doing good works to try to defend this nation. Don't get depressed about it. Just realize that we're going to get in there. We're going to go absolutely big on this, unwavering, no panic, no fear. There's no fear going forward with this. There's no backing down on this. This is only going forward. And I think we're uncovering all the criminality, so that once it does go down, it's never going to happen again. There's going to be no comeback for the sting operation that's currently in place. And I do believe that God himself it's his plan. And he's walking us through this day by day by day. It's not our plan. It's his. It's always his. And we can rest in that. So go into this day without fear, knowing that you're loved. And God bless you. God bless all those whom you love. And God bless America. Make it a great day. Do something. Run for office. Give me a call and run for something under the U.S. Taxpayers Party, so that we can give them a run for their money and take this nation back together. We have to get good people to run. We have to have all people voting. Make sure you're passing all this information onto your networks. This is how we overcome fake news. You can't do it through fake news, because they're hiding it all. They're censoring us. So it's up to you and myself and everyone out there to be the news. And what that looks like is share all information from people that you deem worthy or that you find interesting. Do your own research too and share it. Get the truth out there. You're part of us fighting this fight. Be the digital soldier that we all need to be. And have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be working on the case to remove the electronic machines at the local level with John Tater. We're going to go through this, and we're putting together a wonderful group of people who are willing to fight, and at the township level go in and take those townships back, because honestly, they're all infiltrated, and we need to tell them how we want this nation and our elections run. So jump on tomorrow. Please pass on the information. You can go to my Telegram channel at Brandenburg, the number 4 MI, as well as right there, you can go to Brandenburg, number 4 MI, and we're taking this nation back, and we're not asking permission, and we're doing it without any fear. They should be very afraid right now, because we're not going to stop till we get every last traitor that has committed crimes against this nation. Have a great day.